I watched the ceiling tile flicker. The fluorescent light above Emma's bed buzzed, stuttering. Her breathing was shallow, steady, but shallow. The monitor beeped a rhythm I had learned by heart. I was holding her hand. She was holding my thumb. That's when the door creaked. Claire stood there in jeans and a coat too clean for this place. Her eyes avoided mine, her lips flat. She didn't come closer. Instead, she looked at Emma like she was a stranger in someone else's child-sized bed. I didn't say a word. She dropped a small duffel bag on the floor. A zipper click. Then her voice cold. I can't do this anymore. I blinked once. Then again. She was already turning to leave. No, that's all I said. Not stay. Not how dare you. Just no. Claire stopped at the door, one hand on the frame. You think this is living, Harrison? Her voice cracked. Hospitals, wires, bills, 3 kids and no sleep. She's going to die. I stood up slowly. My knees screamed, but I kept my voice low. You're her mother. She looked down at her shoes. I was. Silence. The monitor kept beeping. Emma stirred a little and I instinctively checked her blanket, tucked it tighter. Her stuffed owl, worn and grayed, slipped from her side. I picked it up, held it like it mattered. By the time I looked up again, Claire was gone. The hallway light was spilling in, and my heart was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. I pulled 2 chairs together, cradled Noah in one arm, Liam in the other. Both boys had cried themselves to exhaustion. I whispered to them like they could hear through dreams. It's okay, I'm not going anywhere. Emma made a sound, just a sigh, but it made my throat lock. The room smelled like rubbing alcohol and worry. The nurse came in at midnight, saw us in a pile of limbs and blankets. She didn't speak, just nodded. We were a father and 3 kids in pediatric oncology. What more was there to say? Morning came with gray sky through the tiny window. Emma was still asleep. Liam was drooling on my jacket. My phone buzzed. One new message. Claire, don't look for me. I won't come back. I deleted it without reading twice. Then I walked to the hallway bathroom. Looked at myself under the harsh mirror light. Bloodshot eyes, 5-day stubble. A t-shirt with Emma's favorite cartoon, faded to a ghost. I washed my face. The water was cold. Good. Cold meant I was still here. Back in the room, Emma was awake. She gave me a crooked smile. Daddy, she whispered. Can I have pancakes today? I didn't cry. I nodded and kissed her forehead. Yeah, baby girl. Pancakes coming up. She didn't need to know they'd be hospital pancakes. She didn't need to know her mom had left. She just needed pancakes. And me, alive. Later that day, a social worker came. She spoke gently, too gently. We can help find a support system for you. I nodded through the fog. Claire had left more than her bag. She'd left me legal custody. Full. Irrevocable. Signed 2 days ago. I should have seen it. She knew she was leaving. She planned it. Emma's monitor beeped steadily. Liam giggled in his sleep. Noah was tracing the window fog with his finger. And I was a father. Alone. But still here. Still standing. Still breathing. Would you forgive someone who walked away the moment you needed them most? Or would you remember the sound of that door closing forever? The word came wrapped in whispers. Acute myeloid leukemia. I didn't understand it at first. Not the weight, not the meaning. Just syllables in a cold hallway, spoken by a man in a white coat who didn't look me in the eye. He had papers, charts, percentages, but no heart in his voice. Emma was 6. 6. She'd been having nosebleeds, bruises we couldn't explain, tired all the time. I thought it was the flu. I was wrong. The oncology wing was on the 3rd floor. Everything smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. Emma's room had a giraffe sticker on the door, a cruel attempt at normal. She didn't ask questions, not at first, just held my hand tighter. I could feel how small her fingers had gotten, her bones too sharp under her skin. The nurse Angela tucked in her IV line with practiced calm. She met my eyes once. No pity, no condescension, just stillness. Later I'd realize that stillness saved me. The boys stayed with a neighbor those first few nights. Mrs. Darnell, 68, smelled like cinnamon and wood polish. She didn't ask why Claire wasn't there. She just nodded when I dropped them off. Go. They'll be okay with me. She fed them pancakes. Let them fall asleep on her couch. I would never forget that. Not when everyone else vanished. The calls came the next morning. My job. We're so sorry, Harrison, but with your leave, we'll need to talk about options. Meaning termination, my bank. You're overdrawn. I knew. I just bought 3 months of medication insurance premiums out of pocket. My parents, nothing. Not even a text. Their silence was louder than Claire's. They had always said I was too soft, too unrealistic, too much of a dreamer. I used to think they'd soften once they had grandkids. They didn't. Emma's first round of chemo started that Thursday. She didn't cry. She looked up at me and whispered, "Will it hurt, Daddy?" I swallowed, then nodded. A little, but I'll be right here. And I was. Every needle, every drip, every beep. Her skin paled, hair thinned, but her grip still strong. I started a journal. At night when Emma slept, I wrote everything down. Not for a book, not for anyone. Just to survive, to stay sane. 3:12 a.m., she laughed in her sleep. 4:02 a.m., fever broke. 7:11 a.m., asked for purple socks. Details, that's what grief hates. Specifics. If I wrote them down, maybe they couldn't disappear. Angela noticed the notebook one morning. She didn't say anything. Just set a cup of coffee beside me. Black, bitter, no sugar, perfect. Still breathing, she asked. I nodded. She smiled faintly. That's enough for today. And it was. By week 3, Emma couldn't walk without help. I carried her to the bathroom, lifted her back to bed, wiped her mouth when she threw up. The room began to feel like a womb and a tomb, warm but hollow. I put up pictures from home, Liam's finger painting, a photo of the 3 of them at the beach before the diagnosis. Emma stared at it one night. We were happy, she whispered. We still are, I said, kissing her temple. She didn't respond. That night I dreamt of Claire. She stood at the foot of the hospital bed, arms crossed, smiling. Then she turned into smoke. I woke drenched in sweat. Emma's monitor beeped steady. The room smelled like hand sanitizer and sorrow. On Sunday, the doctor said the first round had modest effect. They wanted to begin a second, more aggressive treatment. Side effects worse, risks higher. I signed the form. My hand didn't shake. My stomach did. Angela placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You're doing everything right, Harrison. I didn't believe her, but I needed to hear it. Noah and Liam visited that afternoon. They came in clutching chocolate bars and toy dinosaurs. Emma's face lit up. She tried to sit upright but failed. Noah climbed into the bed beside her. Liam showed her the picture he drew Emma with superhero wings. You're fighting the bad guys, he said proudly. Emma smiled, weak but true. Guess I better win, huh? You will, I whispered. And I believed it. Right then in that moment I did. That evening I sat outside on the hospital steps. The wind was sharp, my coat too thin. I watched an ambulance pull in, lights flashing blue against the dark. Someone was crying, somewhere behind me. I opened my journal, wrote one line. If this kills her, it will kill me too. Then I crossed it out. Would you stay standing if the world beneath you cracked? Would you carry your child through fire even if your feet bled? I didn't know. But I would try, every hour, every breath, every page, for her. The room was too still. No monitor beeps, no IV drip, no whispers from nurses outside the door. Just stillness. I'd held Emma's hand through every fever, every tremor, every breathless night. But this was different. Her skin felt like paper. Her fingers didn't curl back around mine. It was 4:47 a.m. Angela had just left after adjusting Emma's oxygen. She said she'd be back in 20 minutes. I didn't call her when it happened. I didn't move. Emma exhaled one long, tired breath and never took another. That was it. No gasp, no drama, just silence. I sat beside her for hours. Sunrise came slowly. The window turned orange, then gray, then white. I brushed her hair back from her forehead. She loved when I did that. Still the prettiest, I whispered. My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. Not then. I tucked her blanket one last time. Her owl rested under her chin. At 7:30, Angela returned. She paused at the door. Her hand touched her lanyard, then dropped. She didn't ask, didn't speak, just walked to Emma's side and checked her pulse. A soft breath left her lips. She turned to me. "Would you like a few more minutes?" I nodded. She left quietly. I pressed my lips to Emma's temple. Still warm, still mine. I thought about the first time I held her. She was red-faced, screaming, tiny fists flailing. Claire had been glowing. We had named her Emma Grace before she was even born. She lived 6 years. Not enough. Not nearly. I changed her hospital bracelet, slipped it into my pocket. Then I took the owl, tied a piece of her blanket around its neck like a scarf, folded the rest and laid it at her feet. The last thing I did, tucked the purple socks she loved under her hands. She'd wanted to wear them when she got better. Angela came back with another nurse. They said things I didn't hear. They touched my arm, guided me toward the door. I remember the hallway being too bright, the walls too white. I reached the waiting area, collapsed into a chair. My chest felt full of concrete. Mrs. Darnell brought the boys to see me that afternoon. I pulled them close, held them until they squirmed. "Where's Emma?" Noah asked. "She's sleeping," I said softly. "For how long?" Liam added. "A while. That was all I could manage." They nodded like that made sense. It didn't. I went back to the apartment that night. Our old couch sagged where Emma used to sit. Her coloring book lay half-finished. Pink crayon snapped in two. I sat there for hours. Darkness settled, but I didn't move. The next morning I opened my journal, flipped past the pages covered in numbers, dosages, temperatures, stopped at a blank one, wrote 2 words, "She's gone." Then I underlined it. Twice. The ink bled through. The funeral was small, 12 people. Angela stood behind me the whole time. Claire didn't come. My parents didn't send flowers. No choir, no slideshow. Just a wooden box too small for how much she mattered. Noah placed her owl beside the casket. "He needs to go with her." Liam nodded. "She's not scared that way." I nearly collapsed. The pastor said something about grace. I don't remember what. My ears had turned to static. I held my sons, felt their tiny hands grip my jacket. The wind was sharp that day, but the sky was clear. Emma would have liked that. We went home and didn't speak. The boys napped. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the fridge. Emma's drawings still taped there. Superheroes, cats with capes, a sketch of all 4 of us, happy, lying innocent scribbles. That night I made grilled cheese. No one finished theirs. Noah asked if heaven had pancakes. I said I thought it did. He smiled, nodded once, then went to bed. Liam just stared out the window, didn't say a word. At midnight I walked outside. The cold hit like truth. I looked up at the stars and tried to picture Emma. Couldn't. Too soon, too raw, too hollow. I stood in that driveway for 30 minutes, then walked inside, sat at her bed, held her favorite stuffed bear, and finally let go. Tears came, hard, ugly, uncontrolled, the kind that stole breath, collapsed chests, curled fingers. I pressed my face into her pillow, inhaled what was left of her smell. Lavender shampoo, sunlight, childhood. Then I whispered 3 words I hadn't said since the night Claire left. "I need help." Would you survive that kind of loss? Not move past it, not heal, just survive. Would you breathe through it or let it swallow you whole? 3 nights later, I stood on the bridge. No traffic, just wind, and water below black as ink. The concrete railing was cold under my hands. I leaned forward, listened to the sound of my own breath, then nothing. Not sadness, not rage, just still, empty. I hadn't planned it, not really. But after the funeral, after the quiet, after making peanut butter sandwiches no one ate, I stopped existing. I moved through the days like fog, dropped the boys at school, smiled at Mrs. Darnell, wrote nothing, spoke less. And on that night, I drove to the old bridge outside Willow Creek. Didn't tell anyone, didn't leave a note, didn't lock the front door. The air bit my ears. I'd forgotten my coat. Didn't matter. Maybe I wanted to feel something, anything. Below the river roared slow and steady, the sound of gravity, of surrender. I stepped up onto the second rung of the guardrail, my knees stiff, palms sweating. I closed my eyes. Just for a second, Emma's voice echoed behind them. "Daddy, are you still there?" She used to ask that in the hospital, in the dark, when the machines scared her. "Yes, baby," I whispered. "I'm here." A tear slipped down my cheek, then another. A sound broke through the wind. Sharp, sudden. A tiny voice. "Daddy," I froze, turned. Noah stood behind me on the sidewalk, wearing socks, no shoes, his Spider-Man pajama pants flapping in the wind. He was hugging his stuffed turtle. "Why are you standing on the rail?" he asked, voice soft, like it was a game. My feet found the ground faster than I knew I could move. I stepped down, dropped to my knees, held him, tight, tighter. He didn't pull away. "How did you get here?" I asked, trembling. He sniffled. "Liam's sleeping. I woke up and you were gone. You walked here." He nodded. "I followed the moon." I looked up. The moon was high, pale, half-shadowed, silent, watching. I carried Noah back to the truck. His fingers curled in my shirt the whole time. He didn't ask more questions. Didn't need to. Children don't analyze pain. They feel it and offer their small, raw answers. At home, I tucked him in, sat beside him until his breathing slowed. Then I stepped into the bathroom, turned on the sink, splashed my face, looked in the mirror, saw someone I didn't recognize. Eyes rimmed red, lips cracked. A man with nothing left, except two sons who still whispered "Daddy" in the dark. The next morning, I called Angela. She picked up on the second ring. I didn't explain. Just said I need to talk to someone. She didn't ask what happened. Didn't fill the silence. Just said, "I'll be there at 6. Bring your notebook." We met at the coffee shop near the park. She wore scrubs, still smelled faintly of antiseptic and mint gum. I looked like hell. Didn't matter. She slid me a cup. Black. No sugar. Then pulled a pen from her pocket. Set it next to my old journal. "Right," she said. I stared at the page. Couldn't. My hand shook. My throat burned. Angela didn't push, just sat, sipped, waited. Finally, I scrawled one line. "My son saved me." She read it, nodded once, then whispered, "That's enough for tonight." We didn't speak more that evening. Didn't need to. Sometimes silence is the only true language of pain. That weekend, I took Liam and Noah to the park. The first time since, I couldn't even say her name. They ran under the trees, chased each other through leaves, laughed, and I felt it. Something small, warm, buried deep under the rubble. Hope. Angela met us there after her shift. She brought oranges and apple juice, sat cross-legged in the grass with the boys. Noah showed her a worm. Liam asked if she believed in superheroes. She said, "I think they're real. Some don't wear capes." He nodded, satisfied. On the drive home, Liam asked, "Is Miss Angela going to be our new mommy?" I gripped the steering wheel. Didn't answer. But inside, something cracked. Not a wound. Not this time. An opening. Would you come back from the edge if someone reached far enough? Would you choose to keep living not for yourself, but because a child still calls your name in the dark? Angela gave me the key. Not to her place, not to her heart, to an old storage unit beside the train tracks. "I used to write there in nursing school," she said. "It's quiet. No one bothers you." I opened the door. Dust fell from the ceiling like tired snow. The light flickered, but it was enough. There was a desk, a folding chair, a lamp taped at the neck to keep it straight. I brought my laptop, Emma's owl, and 3 things I hadn't touched since the funeral: her drawings, my journal, and the blanket she used on chemo, days gray with yellow stars. The first night I sat in the chair for 2 hours. Didn't write, just listened. A train passed once, long and low. Wind tapped the tin roof. Mice in the corners scratched at something forgotten. I opened the laptop, typed her name, Emma Grace Holloway, then stopped, froze, closed it, went home. The second night I typed 3 lines. She liked her pancakes plain. No syrup, just butter. I stared at the screen, then added she called syrup slime until she was 5. And I smiled. First time in weeks. Angela didn't ask what I was writing, but every evening she left tea outside the unit. Chamomile, still warm, no note, didn't need one. Her silence had become part of the process. By the 7th day I had 20 pages, not chapters, not structure, just moments, vignettes. Emma holding my hand, Emma watching snow through hospital glass, Emma whispering, "It's okay, Daddy," even when it wasn't. I wrote for 6 hours that Friday. Didn't feel hunger, didn't check my phone, forgot the world existed. It was like breathing after drowning. Every word was a gasp, every sentence a pulse. Noah peeked in once, held up a PB&J wrapped in foil. "Miss Angela said you forgot to eat." I pulled him into a hug. His sandwich was warm, messy, perfect. Angela sat with me later that night. I read her one paragraph about Emma singing off-key in the bathtub, about the way she used to hold her spoon like a paintbrush. Angela didn't cry, but she didn't blink either. "That's her," she said softly. Exactly her. The book had no plot, no arc, no resolution, just love, pure, unedited, grieving. I called it From Ashes, because that's what I was. A father sifting through what fire left behind. 2 weeks in, I had a full draft. 36,000 words. Raw, messy, but real. I printed it at the library, held the pages like something sacred, paper warm from the machine, edges sharp, smelled like toner and truth. Angela found me that evening staring at the pile. "You gonna do something with it?" she asked. I shook my head. "Who wants to read pain?" She smiled, tilted her head. "I do." She read it cover to cover in 2 nights, then passed it to a friend at a small publishing press. "You don't have to say yes," Angela told me, "but you should let people see her." I hesitated, then mailed a copy. No email, no cover letter, just the manuscript. 3 weeks later, I got a reply, a voicemail. "Mr. Holloway, this is Dana Rice with Green Lantern Books. I read your manuscript. Twice. Please call me." My hands shook dialing the number. She answered on the first ring. "I cried," she said, "but I also smiled." She paused. "Let's publish it." The advance was small, didn't matter. They promised a first print run of 1,000 copies. Angela cried harder than I did. The boys didn't understand, but Noah patted my back. "You're a writer now, Daddy." I nodded. "Yeah, buddy, I guess I am." That night, I wrote a new journal entry. April 14th. "Emma, they want to hear your voice, even if it comes from me." I left the owl by the window, let the breeze hit its face, like she was looking out again. "Would you turn your grief into words? Would you write through the fire, even if your hands still tremble?" The first copy arrived on a Tuesday. Brown envelope, no fanfare, just a name, a title. From Ashes by Harrison Holloway. The cover was soft matte, no photo, just a drawing Liam made Emma's hand in mine walking through stars. I held the book like glass, ran my fingers down the spine. It smelled like ink and something older. Memory, maybe. Angela found me sitting on the porch. She didn't speak, just sat beside me, tucked her knees to her chest. After a while, she whispered, she'd be proud. I couldn't answer. So I handed her the book. She cradled it like a baby, turned the pages slow, as if hurrying might break something. The first 1,000 copies sold out in 12 days. I didn't understand how. It wasn't marketed. There were no ads, just people reading, then writing back, emails, letters, handwritten notes sent to the publisher, a woman in Michigan. My son passed 3 years ago. Your words gave me breath again. A teacher in Vermont. We read your chapter on pancakes out loud in class. Half of us cried. An inmate from Arizona. I've never cried for anyone before. Your book did it. I read every message, every single one. Some at 2 a.m., some on the bathroom floor, some while hugging Liam because he was the only anchor I had left. The boys didn't understand at first. Why do people send you mail, Noah asked, mouth full of cereal. Because the book reminds them of someone I said. Emma, he asked. I nodded. He smiled. I miss her every Tuesday. I blinked. Why Tuesday? He shrugged. That's when she let me ride her scooter. Angela framed the first fan letter, hung it in the hallway. Below it, Liam taped a crayon drawing, Emma in the clouds, Daddy reading to her from the porch. I stood there longer than I should have, hand on the frame, heart louder than usual. The second print run was $3,000. They sold in a month. Then came a call from a podcast host, then a book club invite, then a small morning show in Ohio wanted to feature me on air. I declined the first 3, agreed to the 4th. Not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted people to know Emma was real. On camera, I wore her purple bracelet. The host asked what I hoped people would take from the book. I said that it's okay to fall apart. It's okay to bleed through the pages. But don't ever believe the silence means no one will hear you. Angela was watching from behind the lights, her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. I held steady. Not for me, for Emma. Back home, the mailbox filled again. So did my inbox. I started a wall in the storage unit, clipped letters to it, phrases that hit hardest. You wrote what I couldn't say. You told my story before I found the words. I believe in surviving now. I returned to the desk, opened a blank file, typed book 2, then paused. Liam walked in. He carried the owl, held it out. You forgot this, he said. I nodded, took it gently, set it beside the keyboard. Thanks, buddy. He lingered. Can I write with you? I pulled up a second chair. Always. Would you share your pain with the world, even if it meant opening the wound so someone else could finally breathe? The letter came on a Thursday. Cream-colored envelope, slanted handwriting, no return address. I knew it before I opened it. Knew by the way my hand hesitated, by the weight of the silence. Claire, after all this time. I read it standing. Didn't sit. Didn't blink. I saw your book. I cried through the last page. I wasn't ready before. I am now. Can we talk? That's all it said. No apology, no explanation. Just a knock on a door she'd locked from the outside. Angela found me staring at the paper. You okay? She asked. I handed it over. She read it slowly, then looked up. What do you want to say? I don't know. But I did. That weekend my parents called. First time since Emma's funeral. Dad's voice was gruff. Your mother saw you on TV. We read the book. Silence. We'd like to visit. My throat tightened. Why now? I asked. Long pause. Maybe we were wrong. He cleared his throat. You did something good, son. That word hit like glass. Son. They hadn't called me that in years. I told Angela everything. She sat quietly. Let me think out loud. I paced the porch, hands in my pockets. Kids inside watching cartoons. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done pretending they didn't choose to disappear. Angela nodded. But are you done needing them? I stopped pacing. Looked at her. No, I admitted. I'm just done letting them define me. We agreed to meet at the park. Neutral ground. I brought Liam and Noah. Angela came too. She didn't hold my hand. Didn't hover. She just stood close enough that I felt anchored. Claire arrived first. Hair longer, face thinner, eyes searching. She crouched down. Hi, boys. Liam blinked. Noah stayed behind my leg. Claire looked at me. I missed them. I didn't smile. You left, she nodded. I wasn't strong enough then, and now she met my eyes. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hoped maybe I could earn time. Noah pulled on my sleeve. Who is she? I crouched, held his hand. That's your mom. He tilted his head. She's pretty. Claire laughed. It cracked halfway out. My parents showed up minutes later. Mom brought a box of cookies. Dad brought his old silence. He shook my hand like it was someone else's. Said nothing about Emma, nothing about missing years, just, you've grown into something we don't deserve. I believed him. We sat on benches. No accusations, no yelling. Just quiet conversation. Measured, tense, honest. Claire said she'd been following the book from afar. Cried when she saw the drawing on the cover. Said she had none of Emma's things. I didn't take anything when I left, she whispered. Angela reached into her tote, pulled out a folded drawing. Emma's giraffe, wobbly legs, bright pink sun. Your daughter made this, Angela said. Claire took it in shaking hands. That night I got emails from both of them. Claire, thank you for letting me see them, even just today. Dad, you were a better man than I taught you to be. I didn't reply to either. Not yet. Not because I was angry, but because peace takes time, even earned peace. The next morning, Liam asked, is Mommy moving in? I shook my head. No, buddy. Why not? I hesitated. Because love doesn't always mean going backward. He blinked, then smiled. Okay, that was enough. Angela stood in the doorway, coffee in hand. You sure? I nodded. I don't need a past to fix me. She raised an eyebrow. No, I stepped closer. Just need a future that won't leave. Would you let someone return just because they missed what you built without them? Or would you stand quietly and hold the line you swore never to cross again? The house sat on a hill outside town. Not big, not modern, but quiet. White fence, 2 oak trees, a porch that creaked when you stepped just right. I signed the papers on a rainy Thursday. Angela brought hot tea in a thermos. Liam and Noah drew pirate maps in the back seat. When the agent handed me the key, I stared at it too long. Angela touched my wrist. You earned this, she said. I nodded. I just never thought I'd start over. This way, she smiled. You're not starting over. You're just continuing. The first night we moved in, it rained hard. Roof thumped. Windows rattled. We had no furniture. Just mattresses on the floor. Boxes for tables. Angela lit candles. The boys built a fort out of towels and chairs. I sat on the floor beside her, a blanket over our knees, a cup of tea between us. Do you miss her? Angela asked softly. She didn't say the name. She never had to. Every day, I said. She nodded. So do I. We didn't kiss. We didn't hold hands. We just sat, two people who'd carried grief long enough to know silence sometimes loves better than words. The next morning, Liam shouted from the porch, Daddy, there's a swing. Sure enough. Old wooden seat, frayed ropes, still held. I pushed him gently, wind in his hair. Noah climbed up next, laughed louder. Angela leaned on the post, arms crossed, eyes soft. This, she whispered. This feels like breathing. I built bookshelves the next week, wood splinters in my thumbs, sawdust in my hair. Noah handed me nails like a surgeon's assistant. Liam read the instructions aloud, even though I ignored half of them. Angela made lemonade and clapped when we finished. Crooked, she said. Like your nose. I grinned. It has character. She ran her hand along the edge. So does this place. We painted Emma's name on a stepping stone, set it beneath the oak tree, planted purple wildflowers around it. Noah asked if she could hear us. I said yes. He smiled and whispered into the breeze. Hi, Em. We're okay. At night I read from Ashes, 1 page each. To the boys, to the wind, to myself. Angela listened from the hallway, didn't interrupt, didn't try to finish my sentences, just stayed. One evening she sat beside me on the porch. Moonlight touched her cheek. The boys were asleep. The house was quiet. She turned to me. I'm not her. My chest tightened. I know. She held my hand. I'm not trying to be. I know that too. A pause. I'm just me. And I'm grateful for you, I said. Simple. True. She smiled, then leaned in and kissed me. Soft. Slow. Like turning a page you never thought you'd open again. A week later, I pulled a box from the attic. Inside, Emma's drawing pad. 1 shoe. A ribbon. A note she wrote on my birthday. Dear Daddy, if I had a magic wand, I'd make your coffee never cold. I held it to my chest. Angela walked in, paused. I didn't hide it. She sat beside me, read it, whispered, she's still magic. I had a ring, nothing fancy. Silver, simple band, fit between her fingers like it had always waited there. We stood under the oak. No guests, just Liam, Noah, and Emma's stone nearby. Would you let us grow, I asked. Angela laughed. You mean like weeds or like roots? Both, I said. She nodded. Then yes. That night we danced in the living room. No music, just heartbeat and breath. The boys peeked in and made gagging noises. We laughed until we couldn't breathe. Angela grabbed Liam and spun him. I hoisted Noah on my shoulder. And in that room full of empty shelves and candlelight, I felt full. For the first time in years. Would you build again, knowing what it costs to lose? Would you risk the silence for a house filled with laughter? The auditorium was small. Seats creaked. Microphones hummed. It wasn't a national stage. Just a local grief conference, 30 folding chairs, and a banner that read, Voices That Stay. I was the last speaker. Angela sat in the back. Noah held her hand. Liam fidgeted beside her, playing with his shoelace. I stepped up to the podium, cleared my throat. The mic popped. Then I opened the journal, the one I'd kept by Emma's bed. November 22nd. Emma asked if angels got bored. I told her they probably make stars when they do. She said, then they must have been busy the day I was born. A few people smiled. Some wiped their eyes. I paused, closed the journal, let silence settle before speaking again. I didn't write from ashes to publish a book. I wrote it to survive. I looked at the front row, faces pale with pain, eyes red-rimmed, some nodding before I even finished. I didn't want to tell anyone my daughter died. I wanted to pretend the world stopped with her. A beat, but it didn't. After the talk, people lined up. Not for autographs, for stories. My brother drowned at 14. My wife passed last spring. I still sleep on only one side of the bed. Each one left something behind. A name, a whisper, a fragment. I carried them all home. That night, I sat at my desk. The owl watched from its spot. I opened a blank document, typed Book 2 Letters for the Living. Angela peeked in. The boys are asleep. She noticed the title. You're starting again, I nodded. She walked over, rested her chin on my shoulder. About what I pointed to the letters taped on the wall, to the drawings the boys made, to the stepping stone beneath the oak tree. About what we do with what's left, I said. The next morning, Liam climbed onto my lap. He pointed at a paragraph I'd just written. What's that mean? I read it aloud. Grief doesn't shrink. We grow around it. He nodded like he understood more than I did, then asked, can I write something too? I handed him a pen. He scribbled something beside the quote. Later, I realized it said, we still love you, Emma. Noah wanted to build a birdhouse that week. He said Emma would like it if the birds had a home too. We painted it together, hung it near the stepping stone. On the first morning, it stood. A bluebird landed on the edge, stayed there, quiet, still, Angela whispered. She found her way back. Letters kept coming. People sent drawings, bookmarks, photos of candles lit in memory. One man mailed me a first edition of Charlotte's Web, annotated by his daughter before she passed. He wrote, she used to write down what made her feel safe. Your book was on the list. I held that book like fire. Sometimes I visit schools, talk to kids about writing pain, not fixing it, not hiding it, just naming it. At the end, I always ask who here has lost someone every time small hands rise. Hesitant, shaky, but brave. Then I say, now keep them alive, write their laugh, write their favorite snack, write the sound of their footsteps. In our home, Emma is everywhere. In the bookshelf Liam helped build. In the wind chime Angela hung beside the porch. In the pancakes we make every Sunday plain, no syrup. She's not gone. She's just changed places. One night Angela sat beside me on the porch. I used to think grief was something to overcome. I sipped my tea, and now she smiled. Now I think it's a shadow that follows the light. I nodded and whispered, then let's keep walking toward it. The moon was full that night. The owl swayed gently from its hook above the door. The boys laughed from the hallway. I leaned back in my chair, took a deep breath, typed one last sentence for the day. Some stories don't end. They echo. If your story could save someone, would you tell it even if it hurts, even if it shakes, even if it's all you have left? Because someone out there is waiting to breathe through your words. Zhang Hian Thi, 287407947Y600994.